Hey y'all, back again. It is Brady. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. In today's video, I am sharing with you my second Fall Food Friday video for the month of September 2020. If you are brand new here, hi, hello, welcome. We are a family of four. It is myself, my husband, our 6-year-old and 3-year-old girls, plus a crazy dog. Life is busy. I am in college. The girls are in school. And preschool, and so life is busy, but I know life is busy for everyone. So I am so excited to be participating again this year in the Fall Food Friday collab with Moss Family TV. So thank you so much, Falon, for hosting this, and thank you so much to everyone else that is also participating. I am loving seeing y'all's videos as well, and loving the encouragement and getting to know new folks around here. So I am going to share with you today an Irish beef stew, and I do have the recipe linked down below. It's not completely mine. I kind of made it my own with how I'm making it today, but that's just real life improvising. So this recipe is super simple. I mean, well, okay, it can be. I made it on the stovetop in a Dutch oven. If you need one of those, check the link down below. I have got a, in my description box, I've got a link down there for you for Amazon for the Dutch oven that I have, and I love it. I think it's $30 or $40 for a 7-quart or 6.5 quart. And compared to like Le Creuset or one of those, it's definitely a deal, and it has been working great. We've had it for almost a year, and I use it all the time, and I love it. So if you need one of those, check that out. But in this recipe that I'm gonna link down below, she also gives directions to make it just in a regular pot on your stove, or to put it in a crock pot, and I think even an Instapot. So check that out, because this recipe was awesome. I have already made it, and I thought, oh shoot, I didn't film an intro, so I'm gonna do that now. But I am so excited to share this with you. I think you're gonna love it. And then sneak peek, I made homemade croutons, and I'm throwing that in there too because we had a side salad with this. And yeah, I made this the more involved way. I tried to follow step by step of the recipe. The only thing I did not do is she calls to throw it in the oven, and I just left it on the stove on low and stirred it frequently. So that's the only difference there. You're also going to see that I made some like semi-homemade rolls from some frozen Rhodes rolls. So I'll show you how I do that and just how simple they are and how it looks like you've slaved all day, but you haven't. So let's jump right into the video, and I'll see you at the end. Okay, so jumping right in, these are the ingredients that you need. You need some red potatoes, a medium onion, carrots or baby carrots, some beef stew meat. I'm using 2 pounds, but the recipe calls for 1.5 pounds. And then I'm using Italian seasoning in lieu of the bay leaf and thyme that it calls for. You need a bottle or a can of Guinness beer. This is what gives it that, Irish beer flavor. You need some extra virgin olive oil and some minced garlic. You can use fresh garlic and mince it yourself, or you can do what I'm doing and just use my favorite garlic from Sam's. Down in the description box, I am linking for you my favorite Dutch oven here that I have. It is the Tramontina brand. I found it on Amazon for you as well, so I'll link that. So you can hop right on over there and get you one. I've had this one for almost a year now, and I absolutely love it. So I've turned the heat to medium, and we're going to let this heat up. You want to make sure that this gets very hot. This took 3 or 4 minutes, but instead of just making you sit here watch an empty pan, I sped through that, and it is now magically ready to go. So now that it is up to temperature, I'm adding my extra virgin olive oil. Gonna let that oil come to temperature, which was pretty quick because the pan was so hot already. Then you're going to throw in your beef stew meat. At this point, this is where I'm going to caution you that the recipe says to add a few pieces at a time, being careful to not overcrowd your pan, and I didn't do that. You can see I debated it there for a moment, and then I said, what the heck, we're going to throw this all in there. So, yeah, I just threw it all in, and it worked out fine. But the point is to sear your beef tips, and then they will lock in some flavor, but it will also give you those crispy bits on the bottom when you deglaze your pan. So I still had some crispy bits even doing this, but it definitely didn't I didn't follow the recipe to a T. I have a hard time with that. Normally I have made my own Irish beef stew by just kind of throwing stuff together. But I decided to look up a recipe and follow it and see. And we really did enjoy this. I think it had really good flavor. It was very tender. So we really enjoyed it. But again, don't do what I do. Don't overcrowd your pan. Although if you're putting this in, like a crock pot or something, you're not going to have it to sear first, really, anyways. Okay, so the recipe calls for a medium onion. I am using about half of that. We are just not huge, like chunks of onion fans. I mean, my husband would probably be fine, but the girls and I would prefer not, so I only did half. All right, this has been cooking for a few minutes here. I'm just going to keep kind of stirring it around, and I abbreviated how much you have to look at this because it did take, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 minutes here of just cooking away, and I would come and stir it every now and then. But don't be afraid if it kind of sticks to your pan a little bit. That's going to give you your crispy bits that you are going to deglaze the pan with your liquid here in a moment, and it'll all be good. So it just adds more flavor. But like I said, this is all about on medium heat. Be very careful as these stock pots heat up. I'll talk more about that in a moment, but these Dutch ovens get very, very, very hot. They conduct heat very well. All right, so we're looking better here, and this is not to cook your beef through. You're not worrying about that. You're just getting a nice sear. And because I overcrowded my pan, you can see some of the moisture of the water is still in the bottom of the pan, but that's okay. I'm going to add in my chopped up onion, and I just did a very rough chop, some very rustic, larger pieces. I'm not super worried about it. And honestly, once the soup was done, even though these were bigger chunks, I still really couldn't even find them. And it didn't bother anyone at all in this house. So I don't think that you would be able to find them either. Maybe if you use the whole entire onion, there would be more to kind of have to sift through, but we didn't have that issue at all. I just think it gave it a lot of good flavor. So once that has cooked, and that'll be about 5 or 6 minutes, you just want them to start to soften. This is when you would add your thyme, but I am using the Italian seasoning. And then once this has cooked a little bit, we'll add in our minced garlic as well. But again, they just kind of sautés these back and forth. This recipe showed that you should actually take the meat out and do this, and then leave the last few pieces remaining to the side. Y'all, I just shoved it over, made a little spot for the onions. Now I'm adding in my garlic, and it all worked out just fine. Now, I don't know. Some people swear by searing the meat and doing all the things properly. I've never had an issue. Just kind of quickly throwing things together, it usually works out. So be advised, if it's something that you're like, I don't have time for all this, look at the description box for that recipe linked down below, and you'll see that she does have instructions for doing this in your crock pot. But basically, you could just dump all of this in your crock pot. Even if you wanted to do the meat and stuff mixture first for a few hours, then add your potatoes and carrots, you could, or you could just do it all at once. I've done that before too, and it worked out just fine. I'm also adding some salt and pepper here, and just letting this cook down all together as I've stirred it all up. And you can see they're reserved to the side. I've got a couple of tablespoons of flour. The exact measurements are in the description box in that recipe, but I am just going to shake this all over into my pot here. And this is going to help thicken the soup. If you need to make this gluten-free, the recipe also will remind you of this. But if you need to make this gluten-free, you can also use cornstarch here. And that would make it gluten-free, I believe, and eliminate the need for flour. So definitely an option there. Just think about that. Or if you don't have either one, you could leave it out. Your soup just won't be quite as gravy or thick, which is totally fine. All right, I have got 1 container here of beef broth, and I think this was 32 ounces, and I don't remember if it was completely full or if it was one we had open in the fridge. I do remember now. We had it open in the fridge, so I put in about 16 or 20 ounces of this broth, and the recipe only called for 2 cups of liquid plus the beer, but and reserved in halves, but like I said, I did about 16 to 20 ounces of beef broth here, and then you'll see in the second stage that I did add about a cup, maybe a cup and a half of water, and I think it was perfect. So that is one thing that I would recommend, is that you might want more liquid. If you are doing this in the slow cooker though, you may not want it to add any more liquid, because not as much is going to evaporate. So in that case, I would stick with the 2 cups of liquid, and you could use beef broth or water or a combination like I did, whichever way that you prefer. It doesn't really matter in that instance. So once that gravy has kind of thickened with the flour, you'll see what I'm talking about here. It is very rich and thick here, and so this is just stage 1. Now we are going to add in our beer. Since this is a larger bottle instead of a can, I'm not going to add the full bottle. I'm only using about 2/3 maybe of the bottle. I mean, you could add in the whole thing, and I don't think that would hurt. The alcohol does cook off, but it's up to you, whatever you prefer here. And so I'm just very tenderly, scooting this around and stirring it up and letting it bubble. And I decided we needed a little more salt and pepper. All right, so now that has cooked for a little bit, and you can see it is starting to bubble, we are going to begin adding in our potatoes and carrots. But I thought I would give you a closer look here at what that looks like. So you can see it has come to a simmer very nicely. And I lied. Apparently, we're also going to cover this and let it sit for a bit. I didn't think about that. Oh, I remember now. So you actually cook this recipe for about an hour before you add in your potatoes and carrots. And that is why you can see I already had one chopped up there. So now that it's been about 45 minutes, I'm going to continue chopping these potatoes up. If you have the little bitty small potatoes, like what is that, the Potato Company or something, those little bitty ones that are about 1 inch in diameter, you could use those without even cutting those up. That would be totally fine. I recommend, and so does the recipe, and I really agree with her, to use baby red potatoes, or just red potatoes in general, or even the gold potatoes, because russets, or Idaho potatoes, just regular potatoes, they're not as waxy, so they don't hold up as well in the soup. So I really like using red potatoes for recipes like this. And I also like it because I've washed these off and dried them, but then I like to leave the skin on, and I just cut off any bad spots. But I really like to, I really like the way it looks. It looks nice and rustic with all the big pieces. So now that we've got those cut up, and you can see the tea I had going back there, I'm going to toss in my potatoes now. And like I said, now that it's been about a full hour, the beef is already getting pretty tender and the gravy is thickening up. So I'm going to add in these potatoes just right off the cutting board there. And then I will add in the carrots as well. And these are baby carrots. You could leave them just whole. you could use regular carrots and, you know, peel and cut those up. I am cutting my baby carrots up though in half, unless they were just teeny tiny ones. And so I don't know, I would say these are about 3/4 of an inch big pieces, but you could totally leave them whole. You have enough cooking time that they'll be fine. It's just whatever you would prefer. All right, so just stir to combine, and then we will add in our other liquid, which, like I said, it called for 1 more cup of either water or beef broth. I am using very hot water, as hot as my tap water would get. I just wouldn't recommend using cold water, because even this hot water from the tap brought the temperature down quite a bit in this pot. And you can see that I added about another 1/2 cup because it just didn't look like enough to me. So like I said, I added more liquid, but if you're doing this in a crock pot, you know, please kind of eyeball it yourself there. All right, so I don't know exactly where, and yes, my counters are clean, it's just a little staining. I'm gonna scrub that in a little bit. But anyways, if you remember my last Fall Friday video from September 4th, I made this rosemary roasted garlic Dutch oven bread, this artisan bread. It is so delicious. We've got about 1/2 of a bowl of it left. And so I think what I'm going to try to do is go ahead and slice this up and make our own croutons on the stove. Normally I would make them in the oven when I've made them, but I think I'm going to try it on the stove. So I'll show you how I do that as well. And I'm not sure what video I'm going to add this into, because it is just randomly a Wednesday through the week, but I am going to get that done. And so I thought, you know what, maybe we'll throw it into our meal prep video. Not sure, but it's coming in a video you are seeing obviously right now, but very soon for me. So you can see all the lovely bits of rosemary and garlic in there, and this is going to be delicious. Okay, so I'm just chopping up this bread into rough pieces. It really doesn't matter. This doesn't have to be perfect by any means. You know, you're kind of going for a rustic look here anyways, but I thought this was a great way to use that bread from a few days ago and not let that go to waste, but also get some yummy, delicious croutons out of it. Alright, so the butter is melting. It is pretty much melted now, so I just want to make sure you're going to hear the kids in the background. Alright, so welcome to real life. The kids are fighting, and that's just life. Okay, so I think this is about 3 tablespoons of just some salted butter, just stick of butter I had in the fridge. So now that the butter is all melted, I'm just really wanting to make sure that my pan is nice and hot. Like I said, this is the Members Mark brand. If I can find them, I'll link them. If not, you can just get them in the restaurant section of Sam's Club. All right, let's get our bread pieces and start cooking them up. So I've actually decided that I needed a few more, another tablespoon or so of butter, and I'm not quite sure that's even enough, but I'm thinking this might work. So, and I added some garlic powder and I think I added, I don't know, just a little bit of garlic powder and Italian seasoning. We're just gonna toast those up slowly. All right, so here is a look at the croutons. They don't look very dark, but I didn't want them to be, and homemade ones aren't really going to be anyways, at least around here. So they still have a little give to them, but they've got some, hopefully this will focus, they've got some crispy bits to it, and I think that's gonna be perfect. So I cooked this on like low to medium heat in the skillet for about 15 or 20 minutes, and they are ready to go. They look delicious. I have already tasted one and they are yummy, so I'm gonna let them completely cool down, and then I'll put them in a jar or a bag or something like that. Delicious. All right, so here is a look at some rolls that I have had just sitting on the counter for several hours. They were about half of this size when I put them in the 9x13 baking dish. I did spray this with some like cooking spray. You could use butter, shortening, whatever. Just make sure that you wouldn't want it to stick, and then just tightly cover it with plastic wrap. And I would say this has been sitting here about 4.5 hours, maybe 5. And they were just the little frozen, what are they called? Like Rhodes rolls. So I'm gonna doctor these up though, I think. Maybe, we'll see. We may just do this on the side plane, but I'll show you at the end. I've got my oven preheating to 350, and I think that's what I'm gonna bake them at. I'm gonna double check and see what the recommended is, but you can let these get much larger than this. If you just wanna put these on in a dish, frozen, completely frozen, just throw them in here. I put 15 to a 9x13 dish. You can also do 12 if you want them to get a lot wider. But you can totally, like in the morning before you're heading out for the day or for work or for whatever, or even if you're just home all day. And like I said, grease the pan, throw in your dough balls, and then cover it tightly with, okay. It is real crazy, the witching hour around here. It is like 5:30 and trying to get these in the oven. Okay, but what I was saying is that you can totally grease your pan, throw the frozen dough balls in there, cover it tightly with plastic wrap, and go on about your day. Leave them 8-12 hours, doesn't matter. They'll get really puffy, and they'll be nice and like airy and delicious. So that is a super simple side for this beef stew, and let me take you over there and show you what it's looking like now after it has cooked for about an hour and 45 minutes. Okay, so my camera that fits on my whatever it's called, tripod, there you go, the battery died, so we're just going to use my phone here and show you. But you can see that everything is, potatoes are getting nice and tender. I would bet that the carrots, yes. Okay, so if you can tell, I was able to cut into that carrot. So this is definitely ready, but you can, at this point, just turn the heat off and let it go. And you can see the meat is just tender. One thing that I might do in the future is I buy my stew meat from Sam's, and I find that it is really good quality meat from Sam's Club, but their stew beef chunks are huge. Like, this is a large wooden spoon, and that is a giant hunk of meat. So luckily it just falls apart though, and you can just break it up very easily. But yeah, so that's what it looks like. I think I mentioned it earlier that I used about 2 pounds of stew beef, whereas they called for only 1.5. So, I mean, you can totally adapt this. And then I used more potatoes because I used more meat. And I think we are looking good. This smells fantastic. Yeah. You can see there that we did get some searing on our meat, which is just locking in a lot of that flavor. And then those crispy bits that we deglazed the pan and got off of there gives it just such flavor as well. So again, my I will link as much as I can as far as like my Dutch oven and everything. Just know that these hold heat extremely well. So once you bring that temperature up, you can see I've had mine as low as it will go. I mean, that is like clicked to, see if I pull it at all, it's off. So, and it kept a simmer with the lid on. It kept doing that right there. And so it does keep the heat very well because it's cast iron and then coated in enamel. So just keep that in mind. And if you noticed, I usually am smart enough to remember to grab the lid or even the handles with my pot holder or a towel or something like that. So I'm going to turn the heat off now. I'm going to leave it vented like this so it cools down a little bit, but obviously doesn't get cold. And then we are going to throw those rolls in there. Sneak peek at some delicious croutons. So good. Okay. I'm going to throw together a side salad, put those rolls in the oven. So I am going to throw together a little side salad for us, and we'll put those lovely homemade croutons on there. And then we will get those rolls in the oven as well. The oven is still preheating, but once it gets up to temperature, I'll throw those rolls in there. We'll brush them with some butter when they come out, and I'll show you the finished product when we're done. All right, y'all. So the rolls are out of the oven. They look nice and fluffy and delicious. So I'm just gonna take my little stick of butter here. Now, if you want to go back and watch last year's Fall Food Friday videos, I will link those in the description box for you. And last year I showed you how sometimes I take these rolls and I dress them up. So I not only put some butter on them, but I did like rosemary and herbs and like other herbs and garlic and all that good stuff. But we're just gonna stick with some plain old butter, and those will be good to go. All right, so let me show you real quick here what our soup looks like, all cooled down, and I am about to plate it up or dish it up, whatever you want to call it. Let me show you over here. I have got everything everywhere, but I made some unsweet tea. I've got our little soup bowl things here, my husband's salad, my salad, and then I've got a plate to put our soup bowl on so we can throw a roll there on the side. Dishes galore. Here's the girls' plates. They're not fans of soup, so we're just gonna do, they've got some leftover grilled chicken, some graham crackers, some carrots and ranch, some watermelon, and a fresh mandarin orange that I just broke apart for them so you can see 3-year-old, 6-year-old. And then they are free to get more if they want it, but that was the last little chicken breast we had, and I just heated that up for them, chopped it up, and they are good to go. So let me plate up or dish up the soup, and then I will show you what that looks like too. All right, we are ready to sit down and eat, so I thought I'd show you our plates. This is my husband's bowl with 2 of those lovely warm buttered rolls, and then I'll get him a spoon and everything. There's his salad, homemade croutons, romaine lettuce, carrots, cheddar cheese, and bacon bits. I've got a couple of leftover cucumbers. We literally had 4 little slices out of 2 cucumbers that I bought on Friday, and it is now Wednesday, so they're scarce pickings, but we got some left. Homemade croutons, cheese, bacon, and romaine lettuce. And here is my bowl. I've still got to get my roll. And then, like I showed you, the girls. So that is our dinner. All right, you've made it this far. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you try this recipe. I hope that you love it. If you are brand new here, hit that subscribe button down below. I will be participating the rest of the month of September with 2 more Fall Food Friday videos, as well as I share monthly Sam's Club hauls and weekly grocery hauls as well. We do lots about groceries and cooking and daily life around here, and I also throw in some Mamas in School videos. So if you enjoy those types of things, hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up whether you are new or not if you liked this video, so I know to do more cooking videos. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.